Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to solve both challenges from my variables video. Now before you watch this video I would try and solve some of these challenges yourself. Programming is all about problem solving and you won't be able to do that if you at least don't attempt to solve some problems. If you do get stuck on a problem or you want to see if you've done it correct, then you can come back and see my videos after you've at least attempted them. Although you may actually solve a problem differently than I would, and that's fine. So this video is going to show you how I would solve them. So the first challenge was create a program that will tell a joke. So there's three parts to this program. When the program starts, show the setup for the joke. Then a punchline needs to be stored in a variable, and then the punchline will be shown after any button is pressed. So let's do the first part, which is to use a console.writeLine. Cool thing about Visual Studio 2022 is it predicts what you want to write. So you can see there, I'll show you that again. I'm just writing C and it predicting I want to write console.writeLine. So if I tab, it will do the rest for me. So I'm going to write the setup to the joke. So I'm going to write, what do you call a man floating in water? Then the punchline is going to be stored in the variable. So because the punchline is a bit of text, I am going to use a string variable, and the identifier, let's call punchline. I'm going to use the method where the second word begins with a capital letter. That is because you cannot use a space when you're doing a variable. The other method is to use a underscore like that, but I use the capital letter method. So what is the punchline of what do you call a man floating in water? The punchline is Bob. So first two parts are done. Next we have to output the punchline after a button is pressed. Well, the output's simple. Punchline output into the right line. So we're going to write the identifier of the punchline. Let's test if this is working correctly. Is working fine. So to show it only after we use any key, we're going to use the console.read key, because remember the third bullet point was the punchline will be only shown after any button is pressed. So I'm going to use a console.read key to pause the program before it outputs the punchline. So you can see it's done the setup. Then it's paused with the console.read key, and then any button will output the punchline. And there we go, that's challenge one. Challenge two is to write a story where the user will be able to name their character and tell the age of the character. So the name will need to be stored in a string, and the age will need to be stored. You could do the age in a string, but we'll do it in an integer. So you can actually do both. So before we actually do this, let's write out the story. And it's going to be a very... Oh, I did not want to do that. It's going to be a very short story. There once was a man named Jim who was 33 years old. There we go. Now you could go one step further and also change the pronouns, but I cannot be bothered to do that. So this will be our first variable. So we're gonna take out the Jim name, surround that with quotation marks. Now it's going to yell at me that my code isn't quite correct yet. That is absolutely fine. I'm just sorting out where the variables are going to go. So that's the variable, and we're going to name that our name variable. Let's actually create the variable there. So we're going to go string name, and let's do the user input as well. So that's going to be our user input for the name, and now when our program starts, it's going to ask us, please input a name, not a meme, a name for your character. And this is where we're going to do the age. So remember, when you want to add a variable into an output, you need to do the variable identifier and then use these plus either side. So it's very easy to forget that you need to put a plus both sides of the variable, and then you get lots of red underlines telling you you've done something wrong. So this is going to be our age. Now actually you could actually do your age as a string. Let's write, please input the age for your character. And there we go. Now we could put it as a string and that's fine, but because the age contains a number, I'm actually going to do this as an integer. And because we've done it as an integer, it's going to ask us, well, it's going to tell us, well, this is a string and we cannot put a string in the integer. So to fix this, we need to do int.parse and surrounds the read line in brackets. And there we go. We're just going to run our program now. So we'll put a name for our character. So it was called Jim, and we're going to call this one Toby. Please put in the age, and Toby is going to be 25. And there we go. We have a program that is slightly interactive. We can choose the name and age of a character in a story. There we go. So I hope that gives you a better idea of how to solve these challenges. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments.